Good evening, everyone. Welcome to ICT Hub. Welcome to our third Corporate Innovation Meetup. This is a place we discuss innovation practices, organizational design and culture, and most importantly, strategic determination and leadership that is needed for our businesses today to successfully compete. This is a place where we gather the community of corporate entrepreneurs, corporate innovators, innovation managers, consultants, as well as startups, so we can all learn from each other and share experiences, and we can map potential collaborations and discover new way how to basically survive and thrive in today's business landscape. So in this event announcement, we stated a couple of business facts. Some of them are old, some of them are new. But at the end of the day, each company that is looking to transform itself into a modern business that is searching for long-term growth and to stay relevant in the market today, it needs new growth engines, and those growth engines basically work in totally different mode than the mode of executing on what is familiar to us and the business models we are already in. And that mode is actually leading us to explore and search for new opportunities and competencies that are relevant for us to compete and win in the market. And totally different set of new rules is needed there. As startups, which we define as organizations that are in the search for repeatable and scalable business models while they create value to their customers, corporations also need to realize that searching and coming up with new creative ideas and developing new products and services and working on designing new business models is something that requires different approach today. And it's approach basically that we established in more agile and smaller organizations such as startups. There we have to basically work under the new terms. It requires moving forward based on validated learnings. We take everything as an assumption. We design certain experiments, then we run them to test our hypothesis, and then based on those validated learnings, we move forward. And that is why this meetup topic is very important for us, and we have invited our dear guests to share their experiences and also the way they learn the lessons that they're implementing in their companies and that they will gladly share with you. So here with us this evening, physically, we have Tatjana Jovanovic. She's Director for People and Culture at Philip Morris International for Southeast Europe. She's a psychologist with extensive experience in contemporary HR practices. She's now leading the change of organizational culture and implementation of new working models based on startup way of thinking, and all of that to actually fully utilize the potentials and potential of employees and then for the company itself. And she's so-called fast-forward builder, and we will explain later what that actually means. And online, we will be joined by Julia Smotrova. She's today founder of innovation consultancy called Time to Leap. She's a lean startup ambassador and community leader in Berlin. Previously, she worked for Philip Morris International, the region of Eastern Europe, Middle East, and Africa as Corporate Innovation Manager. And Tatjana, first, thank you for joining us and taking the time with this busy traffic and everything today and talking to us and sharing your experiences that I'm sure are going to be valuable to our audience. And the reason why we have this kind of format and why we have Julia and Tatjana with us today, besides the fact that they have Philip Morris International in common and also innovation, is the fact that Philip Morris International as a company for me is quite fascinating in their recent efforts to basically reinvent themselves and disrupt themselves, because before startups or other competitors in the market do that. And a few years ago, and maybe even less, two, yeah. They made this very bold statement of envisioning their future as tobacco business of a smoke-free future for them. And to become that future and that vision to come true, innovation is something that it's really meaningfully in the place for the company to reach that vision and to actually figure out new products and services and business models that will allow them as tobacco company to realize that smoke-free future. So it's kind of contradictory for someone who's not in the industry, but I'm sure that innovation here and how to change the mindset of the employees at first and then introduce to the world what are you going to do today and stay yet in tobacco industry is quite challenging, I think. And important thing about coming to that future is that you don't have any learnings, you don't have any experience in the past how to get there, and basically while doing a lot of experiments and taking a lot of facts, we used to, as assumptions now, and what actually works in the market and what doesn't, required for them to develop this whole new methodology process, how to innovate, but also the mindset that is company implementing, and it's called fast forward. So I will first start with a couple of questions for Tanya. I made a small introduction to why I perceive innovation very important for Philip Morris International, but from your perspective, how do you innovate at Philip Morris International? Why do you innovate the way you do? And what is actually fast forward, and how it's related to some other innovation initiatives you're implementing today?
For me personally, but I believe many people would agree to that, is innovation is something which is mandatory in today's world, because it's changing so rapidly and so dramatically. Basically, that's the only thing we can rely on. That uncertainty is here to stay, and we have to deal with it. And in order to be effective, sometimes it's important to be even ahead of the game. So, and who brings the innovation? People, right? So as head of people and culture in Philip Morris, we are trying to build a culture which is going to reinforce innovation. And that's the only way we see it can support the business, and it can help us to make our business sustainable. To do that, we have, let's say, two big approaches. One is top-down, and the other one is bottom-up. So top-down, let's call it fast-forward, and bottom-up is something what we call certify. In essence, both of them are enablers to build and to change the mindset of our employees, because we expect that each and every of them can contribute in terms of innovation. So in short, that's it. I don't know how detailed I should be, so you can freely ask questions if you want to. So I guess this is going to be that way of interactive session, but yeah, feel free.
Of course, you're welcome to jump in with questions at any point. Before we have Julia here with us, I would like to ask you a little bit about fast forward. Like, you combine really great methodologies we are finding first in startups, and we learn from them a lot about how they're employing design thinking and how they're using lean startup methodology, and then agile way in developing products. How did you actually decided to make like the best of those methodologies and combine them?
Yeah, probably Julia can tell you more about that. She just joined us, I guess, yes. But in essence, fast forward is, let's say, the umbrella, the label we use to name a variety of methods and techniques that already exist in the world. So we haven't reinvented the wheel, right? So we just relied on the best existing experience that other companies already had, or even smaller companies like entrepreneurs. So we used lean startup, agile techniques, design thinking, as you mentioned, and we just assembled them and make them working together. So I can maybe later on share like more details, like how it works together in practical terms, which I guess most of you are interested in.
Great. Julia?
Hello? Yes.
Great to have you with us. And
Thank you very much.
yeah, we started a bit before inviting you here with us. We briefly introduced you. But another reason why Julia is with us this evening and for this event is because she was one of the team members that were actually working on Fast Forward itself, and we would like to learn more about how you actually started with something that is today Fast Forward. I know you learned with something that were also assumptions you tested and you evolved into something that it's fast forward. But can you tell us something about those beginnings? What were the initial intentions and the goals of developing something that is fast forward today?
Yes, exactly. Did we have a chance to talk a little bit about fast forward before I joined?
Just a few words, but you can explain us a bit more about that as well.
Okay, and afterwards, will anyone be speaking about fast forward?
Could you repeat the question again?
Okay, I was just asking because based on my non-disclosure agreement, I cannot talk a lot, so I was just hoping that somebody from the company will give more details.
Of course. We will share more details from here, definitely.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so yes, I would like to welcome everyone. It's nice to see you guys, even if I'm not physically with you. With my heart, I am with you guys. And you will hear some of the fast forward examples, but my goal in here is not to actually go in details about what I say, but try to get an understanding how we created this program that works and is successful at Philip Morris International. But before I jump into this, just want to give you some background information of who I am and why do I have this right to talk to you this evening. So my name is Julia and I currently live and work in Berlin. I'm a founder of innovation consultant agency to live. What we do is we help companies to implement initiatives and become successful with any innovative project that they have. It can be a startup trying to bring a new blockchain platform to the market, and we come into place and we help them out. But I started my innovation career way before. It was around 2012, 2013. I was in New York. I was a software consultant. One day, exactly when Lean Startup hit shelves, the book from Eric Ries, I was called by my manager and I was told that from now on I will be part of Innovation Lab, and congratulations, now you need to come up with digital products using all these methods of agile, Lean Startup, design thinking. That's how it started for me. I worked in this company then. I moved to Moscow. And in Moscow, Philip Morris reached out to me offering this innovation management position where I would be responsible for the EMEA region, 25 countries, trying to build this centralized innovation program for the whole organization. Well, it was an interesting challenge for me, so I took it over. And I must say I've learned a lot with Philip Morris, with innovation teams, and this is going to be today the journey, what exactly we've learned. At the very beginning, it was just the 5 of us, and we have a clear goal. So we wanted to create an environment, an ecosystem where innovators and ideas can flourish, where ideas can see the daylight in the end, be implemented, and we have enough resources, we have enough attention to the ideas and innovators, and we can actually, as a company, benefit from these ideas. So what did we offer with this innovation program? We offered a digital tool for sourcing the ideas. We also offered workshops, and we also offered a community of innovators within Philip Morris. But we did not build fast forward from the day one. No, we didn't. We actually had to iterate our way through making mistakes, from building, measuring, and learning. It was a process, and in my opinion, helping in my consultancy, a lot of other companies, what is the secret sauce of running a successful innovation program? The secret sauce is treating this program as a product, an innovative product, and applying the same lean startup principles that you would apply to your innovative ideas. So it's the same thing. First, you need to understand who your customers are, who your early adopters are, what kind of problems can you solve, what is the solution, and in the end, does the solution bring a value for the customer and for the organization? So that's how we started. We started with the customer. The question was, we have this innovation program, but who is the customer, right? Who can be our early adopter? And we picked early adopter as information systems department, which made sense, right? Innovations, digital, IT department, and we were a part at that time of IT department, so it made sense. They were around us. We could offer them these tools. We did offer them the solution packaged as a digital sourcing platform where could innovators submit ideas on a specific problem or any spontaneous idea, and we will just take this idea through the process and help this idea to shape in some form that they can pitch this idea to decision makers. We also offer design thinking workshops where we could ignite the ideation process and help innovators come up with customer-centric ideas, which all totally made sense. And we worked within IT department for around a year, but the traction was not so good. What we've learned is they were our customers, but were they our early adopters? Probably not. And the reason behind that was IT department was very busy on getting things done, basically. They had projects that were running continuously. And what they had to do within these projects is to deliver them on time and on budget. So if any innovative idea that would come and doesn't fit this project, it will be just thrown away. Or if it does come and it does fit, then it was a natural process of just accommodating it. And the ideas we were collecting as a part of our innovation program was something completely extraordinary, and it was hard to integrate them back into the business, basically. So that's how we learned that IT department was the customer, but not early adopter. And early adopter is, or if you don't know, is the customer who is experiencing a problem and is aware of this problem, meaning that he's trying to look for a solution. And if they don't look for a solution, maybe the problem is not that painful for them. So we started looking for other departments. Where can we find a place to offer them this innovative toolkit, and we can benefit from innovative toolkit? So that should be the place with high impact, high risk projects. And at that point in time, the RFP is risk reduced products team was working on something really interesting. They were trying to bring ICAS as a new product into the market. And they did face a lot of things that they didn't know. Who would be the market for this product? How can we bring this product to the market? They were looking for ways how to get the learnings fast, first of all, And second of all, right, how to be successful in the end, and how to come up with maybe not out of the box ideas, but new ideas who can benefit, who can fit the needs of the new market. And that's where we came in place with our toolkit, our offering, and our R&D department was really thrilled. They were thrilled because they were so eager to learn that they could actually see the benefit of running things fast forward right away. And what they did is, as it happens in every product you launch, if it works, people create success stories and they spread it among the organization. So that helped us. We started with early adopter. They helped us to improve the product as well as help other departments to understand the value of it. So the rumor spread and more departments started jumping in and learning about it and actually implementing this as well and getting the value out of this. So the second question for us was, so we figure out our early adopter. We knew the customer will be our internal employees. Second question was, what is the right solution, right? So you really need to cater to the needs of your customers. And at the very beginning, our understanding was the design thinking is a great way to ignite innovators. And it was. You bring people in one room, you get them thrilled building paper prototypes, they learn about the customer. But what was happening is, after the workshop, people would come back to the reality and just completely get lost and stop using the tools. And design thinking is a great tool for creating this customer focus, but it's not the best tool per se to understand the business value. So we had to modify, we had to pivot, and we had to add additional offerings so within this toolkit, such as agile principles and lean startup, to accommodate also the business needs, not just offer this customer focus. And another thing what we learned is this digital platform at the very beginning we launched, we were so proud of it, and look, this is the innovative way to collect the ideas. Yes, it is a great way because you do get one idea, all the ideas in one single digital box. You can run reports on them, you can use the community to fill this idea with cool comments and feedback. The biggest problem in this is it's time consuming to maintain, basically. We had to go after each innovator and make sure they update everything in the platform. On our side, we had to update a lot within the platform ourselves to maintain the transparency of the process of the ideas. And the end value was not so clear to the customer. They were like, okay, we spent so much time, but now I don't have time to work on the idea. So we realized that we need to pivot in here as well. Instead of making this as our product, we offer them as a must, is like, this is what is going to help you being innovative. We just said this an option. You can digitally package your ideas, but it's not important. You can keep your ideas in any form. You can keep them on the napkins, you can keep them on the whiteboard, you can keep them in Excel. The most important is innovators are aware the steps they need to take going forward, and that we have a right ecosystem to support these ideas, meaning that we have responsible people within the organization that can help innovation teams to move with the ideas forward. So we introduced specific roles within the organization, such as coach and a builder, to help these innovation teams actually be successful with whatever they were trying to engage with. That was our pivot in terms of the solution. And in the end, I haven't been working for Philip Morris for around a year, so I hope it's right now is still developing and still adapting to the customer needs. But adapting the solution to the needs of the customer is a core, is like a secret sauce to make this a successful endeavor. And the last question I had to answer is, it's a tricky one. It's how can we know that this innovation program benefits the business? What are the KPIs should we use to actually understand if it makes sense to continue with it or should we close it? At the very beginning, we took a very famous path, like every other company is doing that, is using vanity metrics and the amount of ideas. We have this amount of ideas that passed through the funnel. We had X amount of ideas that entered, they filtered, sorted, and this amount of ideas got implemented. And this is the impact we had in the end on the business. So congratulations. Well, that seems to be obvious and understanding, but it's not actually the right KPI of what we've learned. Why, you think? The thing is, if you use IT as a unit of measure, you might miss out on some other opportunities. The key here is this. When you focus only on their ideas themselves, you end up with a lot of ideas that are basically not such a good quality idea. So people are excited just for the number, just to submit the number of ideas. Me as an innovation manager, of course, I'm interested in collecting all these ideas, but then you end up with sorting these ideas out, filtering them. And that was the first filter point for all these ideas. And let's just think, I have some experience working with startups, innovation, but when the idea comes to me and it's just written in like 3 sentences, I have to decide to filter it out and then give it a green light. And did I have enough actual understanding whether it's going to be a good idea or not? Yes, we did develop some criteria to filter them out, but in reality, this idea I could have given a green light to go forward, could have been a great success through several pivots. We don't know where this idea will end up with. It's a great idea at the beginning, it might be a dead idea going forward. It might be the idea I filtered out as a bad idea at the very beginning, but could have been an amazing idea going forward. And another thing what we did is the amount of ideas implemented, amazing. But we only had one session for the startup to present their ideas. So what was happening is the innovation team will work for a few months. They will run some small experiments, basically just to prove that this idea can be a success. In the end, they present this idea to decision makers. And what they were presenting was still full of assumptions. Was maybe 50-60% is just this wonderful number decision makers would love to hear. So to push this through. But then the idea would hit the graveyard because it wasn't ready to actually be fully implemented. And it will hit the reality later on, it will die out, or it will die out at this one-time pitch session because the decision makers will ask a lot of questions. So did you calculate this? Did you calculate that? And of course, the team couldn't have a chance to calculate and verify all the data. And that's a lot of ideas were still there as well. So we created ourselves this graveyard of ideas, which was not nice at all. So what we decided to do, how we pivoted from here into this wonderful fast forward program we have right now, is we realized that the idea is actually not a unit measure. What the real unit measure is number of experiments, is validated learnings you get from going and talking to your customers. So teams would start with the business challenge, something that they're actually working on in their regular work environment, something that they're responsible for, something they have connection, they need to deliver this. And then they try to figure out who the customer is, what the problem the customer is experiencing, and find a solution that can solve, bring value to the customer and to the company together. And through this process, a team is capable to cycle through 10 ideas per week. They just sit down and like, oh, this idea, no, this is not good. It's not enough value for the customer. Let's switch to another idea. So idea was not anymore our focus point. Our focus point is validated learnings. What learnings did you bring in? What have you learned? What's the data your market have provided to you to make a decision? And there were cases then the teams would come back and realize that the business challenge is not correct, or the customer problem doesn't exist, or there is no even point of going in that direction, because they find out that there's something else more interesting they would like to work on, and we gave them these opportunities. So we stepped away from my ideas as the one single unit of measure into experimentation and the budgeting. Like, how do you give money for taking the idea forward? If at the very beginning it was mostly our little fund to do the prototypes, and then just it either goes to the project mode and has a proper funding, or it just doesn't go anywhere and it dies. So we introduced the mid-term funding, is when the team gets money only to run the set of experiments. Then they come back and they say, that's what we've learned, we need to run another set of experiments, we need additional money for this, and this is how they move forward with the funding process. The way how we were able to reach out to the decision makers and say, well, it works, is actually not trying to say that, oh, this is the amount of ideas that were successful and this is the impact, but in reverse. The lean startup methodology helps to kill the ideas. Basically, the teams had to go through the process of what could kill my idea, and killing the ideas instead of making the idea one idea success. And the money that was saved by killing ideas actually was their own KPI. So imagine a team comes in with a project in their mind for $1 million, and they believe it's a huge success, and they pitch it to decision makers. And then they go to the fast forward program and realize that, oops, there's not customer base there, or there's not a problem that this product can solve for the customer. And then this project just gets canceled, and this is the amount of money that the company basically benefits from, killing the project that nobody can benefit from. In the end, no customer, no business. So that was for us a selling point, and our little KPIs, the amount of money we can save for the company. Okay, that was fast. I hope you got some of them.
Thank you, Julia. Great insights. I think we learned really a lot how actually Fast Forward was developed, but the way you explained this is basically very insightful, and I like the approach where you explained us and walked us through all the assumptions and pivots you had to really make something that fits the organization and is actually a way for Philip Morris that works within the Philip Morris. I will now address this another question to Tanya regarding how Philip Morris, how Fast Forward is actually doing here locally, like from the beginnings to today. How do you go into employees with Fast Forward, how they're adopting the methodology and implementing it?
Again, as I mentioned, like we didn't want to introduce Fast Forward as a methodology and just, you know, like ask what regularly or namely in most of the occasions traditional HR would do. Like we organize the training course, you come, you get whatever the techniques are, and then you go, and then tomorrow you do the same old, right? So what we did, we tried to connect the business with Fast Forward, and this is why I said it's kind of a top-down approach. Julia mentioned, I don't know if you picked it up, but this is very much about the business challenges. It's about the project. So everything starts with the strategy. So the strategy could be the big one that you have on the, you know, on the top level of the company, but could be even smaller, like functional strategy. And this is the key, because from the top one, the smaller strategy, the functional strategies are coming out. And in each strategy, you have the key challenges that you're facing with. And this is the critical component. So we ask people to come to Fast Forward training, but with the real problem, okay? And they had to come not as an individual, they had to come as a team. They had to come as a cross-functional team, because we understand that cross-functional teams are bringing different perspective. Let me use a small analogy about cross-functional teams. So imagine someone somewhere in Africa, you have someone who doesn't have a system for cooling food, right, in a rural. And then there is a guy coming with a refrigerator. So the lady can use the refrigerator to cool the food, but then if you ask the engineer, a refrigerator is basically a heating system, right? So it's a matter of perspective, right? The same thing. The same is with the cross-functional teams, and this is why we insist. So we have a business strategy. Out of your business strategy, whatever the strategy is or functional strategy, you create a small cross-functional team, approximately 5 people. They come to Fast Forward training, which is delivered in few days, 2 to 3. And basically whatever they learn it in a small amount, small units, basically small techniques. They apply it immediately in their group. We had like 4 to 5 groups in each session. And once they've finished the formal part of a training, they are ready to make the first experiment that Julia was mentioning. And then the builders or the trainers, as we call them for Fast Forward, were the one who were facilitating not the execution of the experiment itself. It was the accountability of the team, but the team had to do it in the next 2 to 3 weeks. The experiment, the timeline was fully agreed with them, and then the trainers were the one who were helping them to continue. And they were supporting them through the first experiment. So this generated huge learnings in the company and helped us to create the buzz, you know, how much value does it bring, not only in terms of how many experiments were successful in traditional way, meaning like we managed to prove that something works, but as Julie also mentioned, we managed to prove that some ideas are not going to bring the value for this company. So instead of investing millions of dollars, with a small experiment, which is MVP, right, which is minimum viable product, which is a prototype, so to say, with the minimal investment, you see that some things doesn't work, or they might work if you pivot it. And then this is the discussion that Julia was mentioning. But the whole discussion then that you have within the team is based on data that you're getting from the experiment. So it's not like I feel, I think, which very often is happening, or you have someone who is very senior in the room, and then if he or she is having saying, the other people are nodding, but rather we discuss based on data that we are having, and this is how we are making decisions. So that's one of the way how we did it in Philip Morris locally. The other way was, or the other, let's say, technique we use was based on Startify, and Startify is totally local program. Without going too much into details, we opened the platform and we invited employees, saying like, look guys, we believe that each of you are knowing what you're doing better than any of the guys, you know, who are higher in the hierarchy. So you tell us what are the challenges you are facing and how would you address them. So propose what innovative or more efficient solution you might have. And then people were, you know, like coming up with the various ideas. So in, let's say, 2-3 weeks that we had this platform open as a first experiment for us to see whether it works, we had actually more than 80 proposals. Some of them were extremely strategic, the small portion, but let's say around 10%. The others were, let's say, related to functional strategy, which is already a big improvement. So for those who were like the most relevant for the entire company, we organized a pitch for in front of the entire management team for the Southeast Europe cluster, which is already kind of recognition for those employees, right? Some of them got the green light to go ahead with the experiment. Some of them also were granted the money to run the experiment, which was extremely important, showing to other employees that management is willing to take a risk and willing to experiment. So there are many, many messages that you're sending while doing this type of exercises, psychologically speaking, right? But I think that was critical for people to understand what we are aiming to do and what we are going to continue doing on a local side. I hope I answered your question, huh?
Yeah, of course. I'm curious, since Fast Forward brought the change in how people now work and develop their ideas and projects. How they reacted? I mean, the change is always tough, and we all react differently to that change. Like, what were the challenges for you as not just the fast-forward builder and coach in that process, but someone who's HR director and people for person for people and the culture?
Well, since I'm a psychologist and as a head of people and culture, for me it's kind of a natural thing, right? Working with people and trying to best way to maximize their potential. So the fast forward comes as a let's say natural thing, at least for me personally. But for people, that really depends. You know, there are few, I would say, let's say categories you always have as in any other activity, some who are early adopters, and you have to utilize them in the best possible way to make them to be your outside speaking person, someone who is going to advertise or someone who is going to speak positively about the activities you're doing. And then once you get the buzz about anything, including fast forward, then people were signing up and asking like, okay, when can I get the place, you know? Like, is there any free spot for me? Can you do something that, you know, like that I'm like on a list of priority, like higher than someone else? So, and that was the very, very positive thing actually, and sign for us that people are, you know, hooked on the method itself, and that it's already in their mind that it's important and very relevant for the company.
Great experience. How it turned into a movement within the company. Julia mentioned that she was supervising 25 different markets for the company in terms of different innovation efforts, and we discussed her experiences in Ukraine or Kazakhstan or different markets. So Julia, can you share different approaches or what worked best and what did not work and what you learned based on like the overview you had over those very different markets?
Yes, I do. I think I can share this information. It shouldn't be covered by NDA. Basically, when you go to different cultures, to different countries, you have to deal with the system that is in place to make projects work. I mean, you come to a country, and in this country, whoever is higher in the position, this is the person who decides on everything, and they look up to this person for anything. And this is something that me as an innovation manager, I need to be aware of. And when I go to create this, the fast forward trainings, I need to adapt it to the way that it's going to work. If I see that in this market there is a strong sense of having this hierarchy, I have to prepare the decision makers who's going to hear learnings from the teams to actually understand what the teams is presenting. Is your goal, decision maker, is not to actually make a decision. That's what is making a huge difference in their mind. Your goal is to be a constructive builder. Your goal is to understand how you can take this team forward. You need to see, do they have enough information to make the next decision? If they don't, can help them to figure out the ways how you can take these ideas forward, right? What should be the next step? You go and conduct this experiment. And it was really tough for me to prepare these decision makers, this committee, because there used to be the one a source of power. When they say, I believe this way, this is how we should do it, and based on my experience, to open up to it's all up to the market. It's all up to the data, and the data is the only driver. The validated learning is the only driver for decision making. Not your experience, not even the team's experience, but what the validated learnings that we are getting is. So some markets were very open, and I had no problems with the committee. They were asking the right questions. understanding that MVP is not a final product per se. Like, you don't have to ask the team, how can you scale it tomorrow? Because most of the time you cannot scale your MVP. MVP is just a way to learn about the customer and about the solution. Is it the right one, basically? In some markets, it was really easy to get this through. Another thing what I've noticed is how people were coming into the workshop. We would have two cases. In one case, it was push from top to the bottom. Basically, we arrived at the workshop environment, and we have teams forced to be there. They choose to be there. There was managers who just came around the office and said, you, and you. You come here. This is the problem you're going to be working on, so go forward with it. And the engagement from the team was really low, because to actually make the people flourish, you need to give people this entrepreneurial mindset of being responsible for something, making choices. That's what makes innovators excited to actually go forward and explore. So the markets who did it in reverse, such as they asked teams to, based on the strategic challenges, like pick something that you care about, something that's connected to the work, form the team and apply, and actually gain a chance to be part of Fast Forward. That worked the best. This team, after the workshop, were running the experiment without any supervision. So we're already out there in the streets, texting us, emailing us, saying, hey, we just found out this. You won't believe that. This is so cool. We're definitely going to take over with this. So I think this is, if you're running something similar, is give people an opportunity to make their own decisions, take responsibility for their ideas, for the choices. It's going to help culture of innovation tremendously. And of course, prepare the decision makers, because without them, if the team just comes out and gives a great pitch, and it can be killed instantly by the old mindset that, okay, how are we going to scale it tomorrow? And the team, of course, is not ready to scale anything. And that's everything. Examples are right there.
I will now ask you if you have any questions for Tatiana or Yulia. You can go outside of the topic itself, but it's pretty much really, really broad. But both Tanya and Yulia also have great experience in all other innovation initiatives they done in their previous jobs. So if you have any question on how to start certain things within your companies, you're already doing something and you're not sure if you're doing it the right way, this is the time to address the question, definitely. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Mina. I'm working in an IT company in the HR sector, and I'm really interested in design thinking and innovation. And before that, I was working and on a program supporting entrepreneurship in Serbia. So this is those really interesting topics for me. So I have two questions, three actually, for Yulia. First one is, how are you dealing with insecurity when leading, when doing your job? Because innovation, and you don't know how it's gonna end up at the end. The second is, how do you motivate and keep the team motivated when they kill their idea? How do you keep them motivated? And the third question is, what is it for the Bluetooth button on IQOS device? There is some Bluetooth button, and I was always wondering for what. That's part of your innovation process, I guess. And for Tatiana, I have one question. What is the key, crucial role of HR in the innovation process in supporting the innovation in the company? That's it. Thank you.
There are a lot of questions, so I would like maybe to answer the first two questions. So the first question was about the role of the title of innovation manager, or being an innovator within the company. Is this a career suicide, right? It was a career suicide, actually. When I started this at my very beginning, there was no way for me to learn from anybody else who did it before. So I had to learn, we had to iterate, we had to learn ourselves. And nowadays, it's not a career society anymore. Companies are realizing that they do have to put responsible people for innovation within the organization. It's the only way to get this thing moving forward. So it's how secure it is and how to deal with uncertainty, that there is certainty that if you take on this role, you can make a difference in the organization and people see the value you deliver. And if they see the value, they want to keep you. Second of all, it's a huge market. I actually subscribe to the LinkedIn Patient Manager updates, and every week there's 5 new jobs openings for this title. So there is a lot happening in this specific area, and it's amazing that companies finally realizing that. It's crazy. It sounds crazy to have to say that who's responsible for finance in the company? Oh, everyone is responsible for finance, right? It doesn't sounds great. This is innovation. Who's responsible for innovation? Everyone is responsible for innovation. So there should be one person who is actually taking on this role and running it. And as being an innovator within, like as I was at the very beginning of my career as well, is this secure? How do you deal with uncertainty? Yes, there is no clear specific path. Once you're an innovator, what can you expect for you in the future? What's your career path? Within corporate world, there is still not yet a specific step, like first you become an innovator, then you become this and you become that. I believe it's just a choice of a human being that is driven by this. You probably could have gone outside, started a startup, but they do need some security and access to resources within the corporation to make things happen. And that is another trend. What I'm noticing is companies are trying to accommodate entrepreneurial mindset, providing the specific roles for these entrepreneurs that are not paid basic salary, but people also earn money from their additional projects. There is a revenue share model. So once you are within the organization and you show the value as innovator, there is a way of growth, but you have to basically be the beginner, and you have to basically have your own path forward. There is nothing yet established, so it's up to you to make a difference. And dealing with risks, lean startup is the best way to reduce the risk. Is start a hypothesis. Think about whatever you're working on, what can kill your idea first? Like, what is the risk perception? And once you test your risk perception, there will be another risky perception popping up. So test it second, and that's how you can reduce the risk at anything you do. Is what we did within the innovation program ourselves. Regarding motivation, it's a completely different story. There is through my experience, I've learned a lot of things. First of all, monitoring innovation. Should you use monitoring innovation? We tried different ways how we can motivate our innovators. So if task is not creative per se, it's like write a code, or if that require any out of the box thinking, monitoring incentive is the best. Nothing works better than a monitoring incentive. When it comes to innovation, creativity, when you don't know the right answer right away, you can execute something, the monitoring motivation is not going to work. It's actually going to make things worse, because people psychologically, if you know that, oh, I'm going to get this, I don't know, $5,000 if I get this solved, back out. To open up, you actually need to provide something different. And what I was saying is autonomy, right? The ability for the person to work something thing, make their own decisions. Within a corporate environment, it's really tough because basically you decide to do it by your manager. Within an innovation program, we try to do it. First, you go, you know your legal limits, what you can do, what you cannot do, but you manager the real data. So go the experiment, get this autonomy of making your own decision until some point, but go for it. Go for it. Don't just sit here. And another thing how to motivate is to align it with whoever is working on a specific thing. Align your initiatives with that specific thing. If it's just a corporate person doing a specific job, try to let this person apply some of the tools of Lean Startup design thinking to what they're already doing, because then they can see the value right away. Wow, I had to spend 2 months on this, and now I can spend 2 weeks because I realized that I talked to my customers. I realized that's not what customer wanted. They wanted a different thing. So it works for me this way. So providing them with some sense of value, right? What they can get from it. And we tried like no motivation at all. Like you participate in this and you get nothing. And what we've noticed, people were still taking part of it, especially 6% from all our innovators were actively involved just because they were driven by this. This is it. This is who they are. And no matter what they can get from it, they will do it just for the sake of doing that. For people that are not innovators per se, but anyone, if you teach them, you can provide some additional. But what we've learned is this additional value needs to come through education. Like there was a packages provided to innovators such as a trip somewhere to learn something and an additional thing. So it wasn't a monitor. It was more like participate, and this is how we can help you to move forward with whatever you're doing right now. I hope it answers the question. At least.
And the question for Tanya was about yeah.
So since we operate in a highly regulated industry, tobacco industry, and I guess here you don't have a license for selling tobacco, I cannot answer your question related to the IQOS button. So you can call the call center or our call center or go to point of sales. Unfortunately, this is not the aim of advertising our company and the product we are selling. Sorry, this is the local legislation and I have to respect it. The second question, how human resources and the Department of Human Resources can contribute to building the innovation and bringing the innovation in a company, in my mind, is through culture. I think it's a huge one, of course, but I think the innovative culture is the essence, which basically stands for how do we do things around here. How do we do things? So it doesn't mean necessarily procedure, but also that, right? For those companies who are very much procedural and we have exact steps that we are doing, that means something, right? How flexible we are. If you are not flexible or if you are flexible, that really depends. And that type of message comes through various angles, right? So if you are having objective sets only once per year, that means that you are not really flexible. In particular, if you are awarding only those who are achieving the objectives which are set one per year. So, but if you are revising them very often and you are agile and mobile in terms of, you know, changing them as we go, that's something different. But then your awarding system has to follow that consequently. And with that, of course, comes management. It's not only like what we are saying, but rather what they're doing as a management, how flexible they are. How much autonomy do they give to people? Are we willing to take a risk? Are we penalizing people for making mistakes, you know? So all of that is of critical importance for building the innovative culture.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Other questions?
Hi, my name is Luca. I'm a financial consultant, and I have a question basically for both of you. How do you're talking about incentives and so on for people to be innovative in your company, but what about their superiors? You know, when somebody applies for this innovation program in your company, I imagine you have to reduce their regular workload, and I guess their superiors kind of lose part of their resource. So from my experience, that can, well, more or less kill the project and demotivate people to work on something innovative because they compromise their position in the organization. So how do you solve that problem with superiors of innovative people?
I think it's the answer lies exactly in the things I'm just mentioned. It's about flexibility, you know. It's about how flexible your organization is to accommodate different projects which are coming, and those projects are not, you know, jumping from the sky or just bumping into your room. It's something which is relevant for your strategy. And then, of course, if you're applying for, you know, resolving some business challenge coming from the strategy, then you have to discuss it with your supervisor, agree with him that you are volunteering to deal with the certain challenges. And then if you have an agreement, you are welcome to apply for the fast forward training and take a role in the project itself. Sometimes it happened that we cannot reallocate the people, but I guess the more we do the exercise in terms of reallocation of resources, in terms of people and money as well, the better we are in being agile and like more proactive in addressing various things that we might face in the future. So there is no recipe like, you know, we do this or that with the supervisor, but I think of critical importance is the leadership and how flexible they are. Because if they say, yes, we love fast forward, we love to experiment, but you know, we are loaded like this, and sorry, we cannot participate. So it's already a message, you know, there is no flexibility, there is no innovation, and that's it. You're just aiming to keep the status quo, and that's it, as a leader. And as a leader, that's the message you're giving to your people, and that's it.
I have one question. In November, we finished our first Innovation Management Academy, and one of the hot topics was, and I see on this week's Kopanik Business Forum is one of the topics that was highly emphasized, is about how corporations collaborate with startups. And I know I had discussion with Julia about the work she did with Philip Morris, and she facilitated that process of getting to know a startup, their project, their idea, and actually how you can get along and work together and collaborate in some sense. So, Julia, could you share just briefly some of your experiences in how you collaborated with startups?
Yes, it was also part of my job. I was responsible for internal innovation. It's helping employees coming up with great ideas and implementing them, as well as bringing the ideas from outside the world and helping to integrate them within the company. And there was some learning curve here as well. The first learning curve that I realized myself is not searching for a solution to technology per se. So, for example, if anyone discusses me as a department and say, we want virtual reality, just find any startup with virtual reality, I will not take on this challenge, and I will not go into training and accounting. The reason why, because you really need to dig a little bit deeper in this, use 5 prices. Why do we want virtual reality? Or just because we want to educate our employees in a more like a better way, right? Something submerging reality, right? So why do you want to use this technology? Like, why do you want to support them with this reality? Oh, we believe right now what we have is not enough. So I think this is the problem. So what I was trying to do is, in order to engage with startups, with the outside world, you need to be a little bit solution agnostic. You step away from the solution side and you go into the problem side. Similar to what we did with internal innovation. You find the problem you want to solve within the organization, then you go out to the outside world and find different solutions. It can be VR, it can be chatbot, it can be, I don't know, artificial intelligence, a super duper system personalized learning, bit-sized learning per minute per day, and it accommodates your way how you memorize the information. So this is how I started. First, I would make sure that I know what problem I was trying to solve. Then I would go out and start screening and scouting, see what the startups are out there. Then I see the startups and I help startups to pitch their ideas into the way how Philip Morris could understand them. Create a value proposition for Philip Morris, because startups and big corporates, they usually talk completely different language. And startups, especially if it's a technical startup, they're thrilled about the technology. They can talk about it for 5 minutes, but that's not what you want, especially the decision makers on the corporate side. They don't know anything about blockchain, so there's not even mentioning it. What is important was for me to make sure that the startup knew how to sell the product into Philip Morris. Then I would create a session where the decision makers will the startups will pitch their ideas, and then the decision maker will make a choice to test them out or not. So our rounds of the open channel demo days, I call them, were really successful. We would go into test with every company who would pitch, and we will have 5-6 startups per pitching session. And our funnel of startup was really large. At the very beginning, we'll have to go through like 200, 100 startups, and then end up ending with 5 or 6. And then you need to pilot it. So, well, the pilot is a different story, because you really need to prepare the environment in the corporate world to be open to piloting with the startup. Startup does have guarantees, cannot give you guarantees that, oh, in 5 years, when you come back and something doesn't work, it will be there for you. No, there's not. 6 months, they may not even exist. So you need to be open with this and treat startups as a way of learning about your customer, about what the possible solution that you get out of this collaboration. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a vendor, right? You can just take it, implement it, and go forward with it. Also depends on how mature the startup is, but most of the times they're still in a way of trying to figure out the product market fit. The second question you have to answer is, okay, how do we support them? What is the value for the startup to working with us? So not every startup will be actually so thrilled to go under the wing of a large corporate. So I did interview startups as our customers. So I did treat startups as the customer to understand what value you can provide to them. And we realized that it was actually paid pilot. To them, it was important to get some money out of this, and also get some experience, get access to the resources. But paying the startups, it was paying for the large corporate, because the startup is not a vendor. It takes us a large amount of time to bring in a vendor into the process. So we had to use an umbrella company to accommodate the startups and help the startups to get paid, get their profit in, and ensure that there is a constant communication happening between the corporate and the startup world. And that's why there is a need for this person as a corporate innovation manager to be that middle point to translate the needs of each of the sides and ensure that they are in touch and everything is going well, and you manage the expectations right.
Great, thank you. I mean, we always like to say, like, start first from the problem, start with the customer, be problem-centric, customer-centric, and then like everything will evolve from that. So our experience is also from the case of collaborations with startups are very different. Sometimes are very easygoing and quite successful at the end. And sometimes startups have their own objectives and their own vision where they want to be and how they want to get there. And corporations, especially if they're doing this for the first time, like to treat them maybe as any other vendor as well, but like taking in account their own specifics and what is in mind for a startup and how they want to grow and how they want to achieve their vision. It's kind of specific. So in that sense, we have to dig really deep into this topic, talk a lot about this, show some success cases here from the market, and improve these practices and just develop this common language of understanding between these really creative group of people that is working on something really valuable to the customers, using cool technology or whatever, and then having corporations that can help them scale that, pilot certain things within a certain environment which is needed for them, and then bring value to the customers and the corporations and the startup as well. We can take a couple of more questions from the audience.
Hello, my name is Natasha. I would like to speak to ask: what do you think? Is it easier for a company like yours, what is huge actually company, easy for you to take any risk or make some innovation in the products? I mean, not just about the method. I mean, to bring some new products, innovating products to the market, or for some startup. Thank you.
Is it for you?
Thank you. So that's my personal opinion. I don't know, but I would say it's easier for big international players to come with innovation, at least because they have resources, and it's easier for them, in particular if they know how to play with the resources. So this is exactly how we play with the resources with Fast Forward, because we take a very small portion, we make the very cheap prototype, and if it doesn't work, who cares? Because for us it's peanuts in terms of money, and we learn something out of it. But for startup, every penny counts in terms of money, but also in terms of people. So they have very limited resources. So I guess for them, any failure, it is about learning, but very often it means also that basically they are not going to have another attempt to try to do something. So that's I think is the biggest difference. Though we also witness this in some international big companies. They innovated without having a perspective of consumers, and it was a huge problem for them. Many of them disappeared simply because they overinvested into something that nobody cared about. Thanks for the question.
Any other questions? Okay, I would definitely love for you to stay after the event and talk to each other and exchange your best practices and worst practices you had so far. And also I would like to thank Srđan Pavlović from Business Coaching magazine you found on your chair. So this special edition is not special edition, but it's special to us because it's on innovation. It's bringing a lot of great interviews, and I'm sure it's going to be quite a good read to you. And just for the end, I'm sure the audience is interested always. If you want to go for innovation within the big system, big company, like 3 major things to look after or start with. Without them, like everything else is maybe good theater to go and not ever return again? Like, what are those 3 prerequisites you need to have to make really innovation a sustainable story? Julia, can we start with you?
Okay, could you repeat the question? It was a little bit breaking for me.
It's about 3 things, like first-time corporate innovators should start with, and the learnings you have, or what would you recommend as a consultant? 3 things to start with, to look after, to not make as a mistakes.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Well, the first thing is you need to answer a question which is pretty simple. Why do you need innovation, right? What's the goal for you? And as an organization, you might be surprised or not surprised that in some cases it's not. It's just the way to tell the world is, look, we are innovative, we're doing something. And there are a lot of tools and innovation initiatives that are specifically tailored for this PR initiatives, which is totally okay. If your goal is to create a new set of projects that in the future can generate the revenue, then you need to start looking at this a little bit different, because there will be a different set of innovative tools that you will be using to create this engagement in your organization. And with this, you need to make sure, first of all, that you have a responsible person for that. Like, you need to hire an innovation manager. It needs to be full-time, because without innovation manager, there will be nobody responsible. If everyone is responsible, then nobody is responsible, right? So you need to find that person, and you need to tailor whatever the program you're gonna be implementing with the organization to the needs of the organization. You really need to go and understand what is missing in the organization. What can you bring? For example, for teams, IT development teams, the opening of world might be actually this is co-creation and like design thinking that they're so used to just experimenting with the product itself that they need this kick in the door out to go and be in the field, facing the customers. If your organization is already out there, right? You're already facing your customers. You're like some related to the marketing. You know what's going on. You know the product well, right? So you need something else. You need a different set of toolkit to add additional strength to your team, to take your team forward this one. Of course, you need to create a little bit of process. Innovation is still a management. You cannot avoid this. You cannot say it's an art, it's a science. You need to have specific KPIs, and people need to be responsible for these KPIs. The KPIs need to be very well thought through, because they go drive the behavior of people. And talking about culture, what is culture? It's just that decision making we do every day in our work environment. I make this because this is how everyone is doing, right? And you can only change the culture through doing, not through nice posters or team building exercises. You do change the culture through actually working on the project, implementing this new toolkit into real projects and bringing them to life. And that's when people realize the value. Not through trainings generically in the world, just by actually getting hands dirty on the current projects you work on, and that's going to actually help you out. So this is my tips, I believe.
Great tips. And Tanya, from your side?
Yeah, from my side, I think the key thing, if you want to have innovation in your company, is to engage your people. That means 3 key things. People need to know, like, why we are needs to be innovative, how we are going to be innovative, and what does it mean for us. So those are the key 3 elements they have to understand. So there are many ways how you can make that awareness and engagement, transform it into engagement. So I can just encourage you not to be afraid. So if you are the one who are going to take a lead in that, so experiment. We were discussing a lot about experimentation. So randomly pick 20 colleagues. You have an idea, pitch it, try it with them and see what is going to come out of it, take the learnings and then continue from there. And then if it works, then you can scale it and you can flourish. I wish you the best luck.
Great, thank you, Tatiana, thank you, Julia. I hope to have you again soon, and this format or something different. And thank you for being with us this evening. I hope this was valuable for you. And of course, we are here to stay to answer questions, to mingle, to informally introduce ourselves, and where do you see we can help or how we can jointly work on new innovation initiatives. Thank you once again, and stay for drinks and networking. Thank you.